Welcome to the Powered by Age-Friendly City Zoomcast reality-style podcast.
We are movers and shakers, shaking up the old notion of silent, helpless, invisible seniors.
This is a new series of podcasts funded by the City of Vancouver and the 411 Senior Center Society.
As PBA AFC ambassadors, we
raise awareness,
share our original stories and poems,
inform, advocate, and involve seniors in discussing important social issues.
In short, these podcasts will help us,
you, in creating an age-friendly city for Vancouver today,
tomorrow the world.
You can hear us everywhere podcasts are heard.
Welcome to Powered by Age, December 10th, 2020, a day internationally recognized as Human Rights Day. I'm Charlotte Sister C. Ferrell, PBA coordinator and host. Today, we'll be exploring the unique theme, Recover Better, Stand Up for Human Rights. What's your idea on what you, me, or others can do to stand up for human rights? Judith Rainey, one of our PBA peer leaders, will take us a little deeper into the background of Human Rights Day, and our special guest, David Handelman, a 411 board member and tireless senior advocate, will share some good news about the Mobility for Seniors program. Now, will everybody in the podcast meeting please give your 15 seconds of fame introduction?
Yes, good afternoon, folks. My name is Neall Ryon. I'm a author of a book, From the Other Side, which is poetry and short stories. And I have a story for today about human rights. Be rather interesting. So
I'm up next. Okay. Hi, I'm Judith Rainey, and I'm a member of 411 Seniors Society and also the South Granville Senior Center. And I'm really exploring creative venues and creative capacities that sort of gone by the wayside. Thank you. And I guess, Leslie, you're next.
Yes, I'm Leslie Hebert. I live in New Westminster, and I'm an ESL teacher. I teach English as a second language online, and I'm also a writer currently working on a travel memoir of an extended vacation that I took in Japan a few years ago.
My name is Elizabeth. I am one of the organizers and leaders of the Agape Wise Ones in Los Angeles. At the moment, we are really into...
Did that hurt?
It felt like it.
It looked like I fell.
I was like,
my camera fell, yes. We're just exploring the rich reservoir of talent in our membership and showcasing them every month.
I'm Joel from Podstream Studios, downstairs from the 411 Senior Center on the 7th floor. We're on the 2nd floor. And here to, I was here to help on the technical side. Charlotte was getting something going there, and I have to check out because I got to go make a pitch about the studio as part of a kind of media lab for an institute here relating to digital ecosystems and cultural ecosystems, and looking at our natural ecosystems to inform our understanding of all this digital networked connectivity and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I got to go pitch that right now, and I hope it goes well.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to seeing you back later or in a couple of weeks. The 2020 theme is Recover Better, Stand Up for Human Rights. And this year's Human Rights Day relates to the COVID-19 pandemic and focuses on the need to build back better, ensuring human rights are central to recovery efforts. So it's definitely making that connection to the ecosystem that we will reach our common goals only if we're able to create equal opportunities for all. So we're going to be asking each of you a little bit about in what ways do you see being able to build equal opportunities for all. We're also going to be looking at ways to apply human rights standards to tackle entrenched, systemic, and intergenerational inequalities and exclusion and other things such as ageism. So we have a lot to talk about today. And as I understand, one of the ways that Neall is going to relate to this is with a poem you wrote.
Poem? No, I said I have a story to tell.
Oh, a story. Okay.
Yesterday, I got 5 phone calls from guys trying to steal my money by telling me I owed money to the Federal Department of Revenue or whatever the hell it was anyway. But 2 of those phone calls, I answered. I connected. I allowed the thing to go through, and first off, a machine told me that I was about to be arrested, and I let it go through. And then the first time I let it go through, I said to the man, I need you to do me a favor. The next time you go visit your mother, I want you to tell her what you do for a living. Well, we never got to the end of my sentence because he hung up. But the second time, the guy didn't hang up. He said, no, I won't do that. I said, you know, there's some karma involved in what you do, and you're there to steal people's money. And I said, that can't be good to think of yourself as a thief. And he said to me, I have to do that. I have no job. There's no jobs available. I do this to have money so that I can live. And then he asked me, how old are you? And I told him, and he said, I'm 22 and I have nothing. So we had a little bit of a conversation that went on for a few minutes. I think maybe somebody at his end started to listen in or whatever, and he hung up. But it's been bothering me is that he's right. So it's been bothering me ever since we had that conversation yesterday around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, trying to think of what can I possibly do? Because he and I had this conversation is what can I do to help? Because I'm not going to send you money. So the question is, what can I do to help? I understand he's in a box that he says his situation, but my conversation with him said he also understands what he's doing is wrong. Today, after my meditation and so forth, I ran through the scenario in my meditation this morning. And anyway, the bottom line is what can I do to help him? I cannot do anything. I cannot suffer enough to save his soul. I cannot do anything directly but I can forgive him. I can forgive him for being a thief. I can forgive him in my mind so that the next time I get a phone call that says you owe the government money and you're going to be arrested, I'm not going to say, you dirty son of a... I'm not even going to think that. I'm going to think, I forgive you. Because he's probably doing the best he can given his life. And as he said to me, I'm 22 years old and I have nothing. And here I am sipping my morning green Chinese matcha tea latte and eating fresh green avocados and thinking, well, you dirty, rotten, no good because you're trying to steal my money. But then I realized that if I forgive him, I have to forgive Jeff Bezos, the guy from Amazon. So he's got $1 billion in the bank, which he probably doesn't, but he's worth that much money because he has that many shares in Amazon, which is worth that much money. I have to forgive Jeff Bezos for being a billionaire. Equally, that I cannot judge him and saying, you're not doing the right thing. You're not being a multi-millionaire, what do you call it, where they give away money like Bill Gates does. So the bottom line is I have to forgive us all because we're all doing the best we can, given the circumstances, given the conditions that we're in. And yes, if I could do something, if I could get Trudeau online to say, hey, how can we help those people? And the truth is we can't. We just simply can't. But I can forgive them in my heart. And I think that's the only thing I can do.
Oh, I know. These people are calling, and it speaks to one of the problems, inequalities within our society. You have a company that's the billionaires have gained 8% during the COVID times. They were talking on Czech about housing prices in Vancouver. Housing sales are going through the roof instead of falling. There are people that have a lot of money. At the same time, while people are becoming homeless, the average price of a home in Vancouver area is $825,000, an average cost. So that's one of the questions of how are we called to help with these issues of human rights? What do we see that we can do?
Can I interrupt?
Sure.
Okay. So in reading the Declaration of Human Rights last night, I came across 3 items that really struck me. And the chair of the committee was Eleanor Rosevelt. And she had a committee of 6 women. One of the things that Eleanor Roosevelt said, and we can translate this to modern times, is, "Dear Lord, lest I continue in my complacent ways, help me to remember that somewhere someone died for me today." And so I say, dear people, lest I continue in my complacent, privileged ways. And because I say privileged, because I live in a safe, warm, dry environment with hot and cold running water, clean water, and I have food. So help me to remember that somewhere someone doesn't have that, isn't free, and isn't equal.
Yeah.
And the other thing, second item that I wanted to share was that, and this is really for politicians, and that is, courage is more exhilarating than fear. Mm-hmm. And what this COVID has done is it's been stoking fear. And the third item was, what does freedom mean? And how are we to act as free people in 2021? That is my contribution.
Good questions.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Judith.
The point was for me is that I was in contact with the poverty, the reasons why young men, 22-year-olds, turn to thievery is probably because he can speak English. And because he can speak English well, he fits into that little groove that says, I can go steal this man's money. And I decided to engage the phone calls and say, hey, think about what you're doing. And his response was, I really don't have a choice.
You know, Neall, you are a very wise soul. And I think through your interaction, which it's a very rare person that would actually interact with a scam caller like that. But perhaps through your interaction, you planted a seed in him, perhaps.
I interacted with a couple of scam callers, and one, there's so many people sending out these notices saying that you have a grant, or just click here to receive your $4,500. So I text back to one person, you don't even know me. So how could you ask me to text back? And so then he texts back something else of, well, do you want to get to know me? And I said, no, because I know that you're operating a scam and I don't want to make acquaintance with scammers. But it does put to us this question that they've asked, that we'll reach our common global goals only if we're able to create equal opportunities for all and address the failures that have been exposed by COVID-19. COVID-19 has expressed this kind of failure in people being able to get work. Just look at the numbers of people who restaurants, all the kinds of services that people would have been making a lot of money for at Christmas time that have nothing. So I think that it is laudable, Neall, that you do with them. And maybe, as Leslie said, at some point that will play out in his reasoning and looking at maybe there is another alternative to this. We have David joining us. David Handelman is a member of the 411 board, and he was involved in something that is an example of advocacy position and pushing to have something done that will make a lot more seniors able to talk. David, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you see me?
I can see you. It looks like you are by between clouds and water.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just out. I'm not at home, but I'd be glad to let you know what's going on. So how would you like me to start, Charlotte?
Oh, start by telling what the effort was and what has been announced.
Well, as some of our members may know, a couple of years ago, we began to obtain free laptop computers from an organization that affiliated with the federal government and Telus that refurbishes laptop and desktop computers. And we were able to, so far, get about 40 laptop computers, which we've given.
That's great.
And they've been very, very happy to have them. We noticed, though, that some of the members had a lot of trouble accessing the internet. They were either using a neighbor's internet or somehow piggybacking on some other internet. In other words, they couldn't get it at home very easily because the monthly cost is probably starting at about $50 or $60 a month. So in any event, we approached Telus in the middle of this year, around July, to ask them if they would consider providing affordable internet at home for seniors. And there were some other organizations that have also approached Telus, but Telus responded to us, and we had a very satisfying Zoom meeting with a number of representatives of Telus who asked us to submit a proposal for low-cost internet at home. And at the time, I think they were probably also thinking about low-cost mobility for good. But the focus of that discussion was on internet at home. In any event, just as you all may know, a couple of days ago, Telus announced a program called Mobility Good for Low-Income Seniors. And this is a program where Telus will provide for $25 a month a free refurbished phone, 3 gigabytes of data, unlimited calling and texting within Canada, you know, the usual caller ID and so forth, and voice message for $25 a month, and no contract is required. Now, the way that people who are eligible receive this at this point, this program specifically is for seniors, low-income seniors. So if a senior qualifies for the GIC, the Guaranteed Income Supplement, there's a website that they can write to. And during the application process, I imagine that they will have to, verify their economic status. And once Telus is satisfied, then they will send that person a telephone and a SIM card, and they'll also send them a code. So in other words, once they get their phone and their SIM card in the mail, they turn it on, and at some point they have to enter an access code provided by Telus. So, just this program just began, but we anticipate that thousands of seniors across Canada are going to benefit from this program. And, as Charlotte knows, internet and cell phone access is extremely important, especially in these days of the pandemic, and for seniors, many of whom are staying home most of the time. So, we're very excited about this program, and my goal is that Telus, once this program is underway, Telus will provide internet for good to low income for seniors. So they already do provide internet for good for low-income families and for people on disability. So my hope is that once the mobility program is underway, that Telus will add to it the Internet for Good at home for people who have laptops or a computer. Meanwhile, it's a great program, and I imagine that once people get their phones, if they need any help activating it, we can probably help them on the line or over the phone. I don't think it's too complicated, but even so, some people who receive the phone at home may not have access to the internet to activate the phone. So we could probably help with that. People in our office probably be glad to help that person get through the initial process, start the phone service. And I don't exactly know how the person will pay the $25 a month. I imagine it'll be by credit card. If some seniors do not have credit cards, that could be another problem. But anyway, for starters, we think this is going to be a wonderful program, and we're very pleased that Telus has agreed to this initiative.
Bravo.
That's really excellent. David, do you have the website address? I'd like to pass this information on to people in New Westminster, so where people can find out more about the program.
Well, I have it. It's mobilityforgood at telus.com.
Okay.
mobilityforgood at telus.com.
Oh,
so
excellent.
I guess that's an email address. And what the person is supposed to do is email proof of the fact that they're on GIC or to that email. Again, I don't know the exact process, but some form of proof that the low-income senior is receiving the GIS. It could be a tax form. I don't exactly know what form it will be. This has all just happened in the last couple of days. And as I mentioned, probably in our office, if you need help to somehow confirm that you are qualifying, I imagine people in our office would be able to help you.
You're speaking of the 411 Center office where I'm here and back there. Well, although groups can't come in, people can call and make individual appointments with things like help with getting on OAS or taking part in programs like this.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
David, the South Granville Senior Center, are they familiar with this Mobility for Good at Telus?
Yes, it's my understanding that Telus sent a press release to all seniors groups.
Good.
It was on I saw it in a couple of online newspapers, and yes, so all seniors, as far as I know, all low-income seniors and GIS are eligible for this, and seniors organizations will be receiving this news, and I'm sure there'll be some publicity. Telus already publicizes quite a bit. It's other Mobility for Good programs. So I'm sure that this one will be advertised as well.
Great. I'm sure there are people seniors in my neighborhood that it would be good for them to be able to access this.
Oh, yes. Like any technology, probably takes a little while to figure out the cell phone, if you haven't used a cell phone before. But, seniors are smart. Seniors will figure it out.
Also, that's another one of those small things, because there are people within this group that have helped other seniors to get onto Zoom or to learn how to use some of the apps on their phone.
Yeah, sure. As I said, when the center was open, of course, we did have a computer instructor, so people would come in all the time with questions, about working their devices. But we'll figure it out. Yes, we have a lot of talented people at 411, a lot of people who taught themselves how to use these things or learned from others. And we're going to work together to make sure that every one of our members who qualifies, who wants one of these devices, gets one.
Well, thank you for your work and for, again, this is an example of one of those things that Eleanor Rosevelt said, where do universal human rights begin? In small places, so close and so small they might not be seen. But when people take action, so I know that one of the people that you interviewed, some people that are part of our podcast, I know that you interviewed Neall when you were making a case to tell us about loneliness and how not having a phone contributed to people's sense of loneliness or isolation. So just taking parts in small efforts like this, you can see how it leads to a big project like.
Yes, and at the time of the application, Telus asked us for comments from our members. And they wanted to know, well, what kind of a difference would this make in your life? And so I was able to get comments from 5 or 6 people. I only identified them by their first name, so their privacy is maintained, but they were very happy to provide comments for me about that I passed on to Telus. So it could be that was who knows what drives Telus decision making, but I'm sure that the comments of our members were important to this process.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, my pleasure.
This is going out. I think each of the senior programs were involved in some way so that they are using internet, mail, or whatever means they have to let people know about it.
When is your next podcast, Charlotte?
Next Thursday.
It would be kind of interesting if any of the people listening to this podcast or participating knew of anyone who had applied through this program. It would be helpful to know, what their experience was. Just, the application process and getting the phone. And I guess maybe the phones wouldn't be in the people's hands within a week, but it'd be helpful to know, how did people find actually getting online and getting started with the process. So maybe in the future, somebody could come onto the podcast who is, recipient and say, what happened to them.
Don?
There's a great deal of interest in this in Quirky, and there's at least a couple of people that are interested in applying, and I hope to be talking with them in the next couple of days. So I'll let you know what we find out and what the process is like as soon as I know something. Great.
And, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few glitches, anytime anything like this gets started. But Telus seems to have thought it out, but we'll just see what happens when it starts operating. But I'm pretty confident that it'll work very well.
Well, stand up for human rights it's a simple example, because that's one of the things that under the UN Human Rights generic call to action, stand up for human rights, they aim to expose to the general public, their partners and everyone, ways to bolster transformative action. So just that action of helping someone to have the power of a phone, and then the other thing with helping 40 people to get a computer to use, that is very transformative in a person's life, especially when we are separated. The only time we can rub shoulders is here in our Zoom rooms.
Oh, and thank you. I wanted to mention also that we are going to be trying to get some more laptops. One of the problems with the organization that provides the free laptops is because of the pandemic, there was a huge demand from kids, kids who are at home.
Kids, yeah.
So they've sort of run out of free laptops. They do have some very low cost, or they may even have some free desktop computers with monitors at a very, very affordable price. In case anyone out there may want to buy a low-cost desktop and monitor. And they're decent machines. They're sort of government or business machines that maybe 5 or 6 old, but they still work very well. So if anyone's interested in that, I can pass on the information of the website. There's an organization in Burnaby, quite near the Burnaby Out Government Road and Lohit Highway, that fulfills these orders, and they're great.
You want to give that number or count?
The organization is called Reuse BC Technology for Learning. That's the name of the organization. And
BC
they have,
Technology for
Learning. And they have a website, and on the website there's information about, what they offer and how to buy some very low cost. You won't have to pay more than $100 or so for a very good computer and monitor.
Yeah, there's also an organization called Free Geek, which is down Vancouver East Side, down off of Franklin Street, that does a lot of computer recycling and refurbishing. And they have a lot of low-cost computers as well.
Yeah, they're good too. The thing about this BC Technology, they have like hundreds. I mean, I was at their warehouse, and they've got pallet upon pallets of old computers. So, and they've got like a team of 7 or 8 people whose job it is to refurbish these computers. So yes, I know Free Geek, and they're very good too. I'm not sure how much availability they have, but the BC Technology for Learning is a pretty big organization. So,
isn't that where I was referred to for refurbishing or recycling my Samsung Galaxy? I think that was it. Sorry to interrupt.
They may take stuff. They may take older objects as well. I'm not quite sure about that. Most of their stuff comes from corporations.
Right.
Every 5 years, they buy new stuff, whether they need it or not. It's all sort of part of the taxation and everything.
Right. I never want to own another CPU. A laptop, CPU, not for me.
Okay.
So, thank you for other people.
Okay.
And the desktop. Some people who don't like a laptop, a desktop is good. But we have writers, like with Quirky, you've got people that write. So it's a wonderful tool to have in their hands, a computer, because it makes it possible for them to email it. Neall gets involved in different writing contests, so that enables even more people to take part in some of these things that help make the world better and just help people.
Easier, I admit.
Okay, well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. And as I said, it would be interesting to find out what people's experience is like once this program starts to roll out.
Okay, well, we will give, in the notices that we send out, we'll tell people or welcome people to join us and let us know. And then each of you, if you know someone that gets involved with it, you could share what their experience is, so that if there are glitches, they can be worked out. And if it's good, we can just keep the good news going. Okay, we wanted to continue on with asking people, what is your, this idea question, without concerted, is there something that you can identify that you can do, or something that you can identify that others can do?
Charlotte.
Yes.
I have a reaction to what Neall was relating to us. I really feel it's a dilemma, what he was referring to. What can the young man do? What can we do? Right? The story that he was telling us. I don't know. But the fact that you, Neall, were able to arrive to a personal reconciliation of forgiveness, that you could forgive him, the young thief, and then you turn around and say, then on that same vein, I've also got to forgive Jeff Bezos. I just thought that was very profound to me, because you would not have thought all those two opposite ends should or would deserve the same type of reaction. But yet there was. So I just want to say that. It is very thought-provoking for me. And thank you for doing that. And I think behind that, Charlotte, is the question you're asking in terms of what can we do individually. And, on an energetic level, forgiving is a heck of a lot better than accusing and being angry and blaming, because we really don't know what or who to blame at this point. So, yeah, Thank you, Neil, and thank you, Charlotte, for bringing up those questions.
Another example that came about, and it's connected with another action, BC Human Rights Commission had an announcement of their own this week about new anti-racism legislation they're putting into being, or measures. And it was reported on news a couple of weekends ago that there were some indigenous people that were the subject of a game that was being played by some hospitals. I mean, not just one hospital, but they were playing this game that when people came in, before they started giving them any treatment or anything, they asked, how many drinks have you had? And they were running a lottery, a pool around who would guess correctly. And so it has been reported, and they're doing an examination across the healthcare system for places of systemic racism, things that you just wouldn't think that people would do. Healthcare people, asking people, playing a game with people in emergency rooms. So, but that person who was brave enough to be the whistleblower, that person put themselves at risk of, being ostracized by other people. We see even in other places where people are taking stands about the election, or taking stands about wearing masks. Some people are being threatened at gunpoint. So that it does, this one thing of using the power of our voice to speak up about things that are not right is a very small thing that has big consequences. It can lead to someone taking notice, like the way that the government agencies are doing, taking notice and investigating this ridiculous game that people were playing with people's lives in emergency rooms.
I'd like to bring Don up to date with the conversation earlier. Don, I had a call from those guys that tell me the government, I owe the government all kinds of money, and I actually went through the opening hoops to talk to the guy, and I said to him, I'd like you to go and tell your mother what you do for a living. And we had a bit of a conversation, the sum of which was that he's 22 years old, doesn't have a job, doesn't have anything. That was his comment. And I said, I'd like to be able to help you out, but I am not going to send you money. And he said, then how can you help? And I pondered the question, and I pondered the question for the last 24 hours, because this phone call was yesterday at 2:00. And I pondered the question, and I came up with the answer that the only thing I can do is forgive him for his coping with the world the best he can. And then when I got to understand that forgiving him for being a thief is really easy for me to do, but I think it's rather profound that's my answer. And then I realized that I've got to forgive Jeff Bezos for being Amazon. It's not just I got to forgive below me. I've got to forgive financially below me. I've got to forgive above me as well. And my conclusion to my interaction was everybody's doing the best they can. And as I sip my macho green tea latte, and I think there's nothing else but to just love everybody the way they are, thieves and all.
I forgive you for drinking your green tea latte.
Say again, Elizabeth.
She jokingly said she forgives you for drinking your green tea latte.
Yeah, but I think basically every change starts with ourselves. So it's a matter sometimes of just awareness, self-awareness, consciousness raising, which just Charlotte pulled Neall up for an expression that he used because he did it quite unconsciously. We have to be more conscious of our inbuilt biases, I think.
Right. And one of the powers that seniors have his voice, that example of what happened with David. It wasn't David by himself, but the different senior organizations, people on those boards, they told their members, they did get stories. They met together with Telus and challenged Telus as a major provider of internet and phone service to do something to make it possible. So that's the small thing. At one end, there was Neall, there were about 3 out of those 5 people that he called, that he documented their stories on how much it means to have access. And then other things, the realization that a lot of people in retail are out of jobs because the system that Amazon has put a lot of retailers out of business. Right now on TV in the States and here, you hear small businesses or people saying, support the small businesses, buy local, because this huge entity that Amazon has become, they have fulfillment centers. So where people might have had a chance to have a job in a store, now they're at a fulfillment center. Some people even living in trailers, a lot of seniors. There's some small towns where this company has built, they have the fulfillment center and they rent people space to have an RV that they live in so that they can fulfill the orders. So being able to speak out in cities where when companies are going to get licensed to locate there, they always have public meetings. I know of places where it has happened. At some point, people might have been hesitant to speak out, but now seeing how this entity has been able to replace so many retail places where people could get a job and make money instead of begging people for money or stealing or trying to cheat people for money. So speaking out, don't you find that, Don, that a voice, have there been places that you've seen being able to use your voice about things that were detrimental to people?
Well, yeah, sure. I think it's the health crisis that we're going through has created a situation where these big corporations that have the infrastructure set up to do retail sales without being in person and has created such obscene profits. There needs to be some sharing of that somehow. There needs to be some payback to the rest of society for the huge quantities of money that they've made off of the suffering of everyone. I don't know what the answer is to that, but I've been involved in a situation with some parallels to what Neall is talking about the last few months. I have several friends in Palestine and Gaza who I follow regularly. And this one man in particular is a journalist who posts a lot of information every week. And he recently started a fundraiser for children to be able to have food and clothes and stuff like that. And I contributed some money to it. And then suddenly I started getting all kinds of requests for money. And, I'm on a fixed income. I can't like support families, but I made an agreement with him that I would send a small amount of money every month instead of trying to do a chunk of money all at once, so that he can use it in his work and for helping provide food and clothes for children. But I every day I get new requests. Yeah. And so it's very hard. You have to say sorry. I would really like to help, but I can't.
Yeah, we all have our limits. I mean, we're all just like ordinary people with limited income. And this is why it's so hard to see these mega corporations making billions and billions and not doing anything to help anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I think the lowest common denominator is to at least bear witness. Mm-hmm. We can bear witness to what is going on. And then if we can see a way beyond that to pursue that. Like, I think some people or some organizations have been shaming other transgressions. And I regard Bezos's billions as transgressions because there's no community consciousness.
Yeah.
And I won't say anymore.
Well, you see, the breakdown of money. I mean, just in the profits that they've made this year since March, almost, well, hunger could be ended in the world, with just that amount of money, not counting anything else, so it's just it's hard to fathom how there's not more accountability somehow.
Well, who has read Oliver Twist?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the role that many people have played has been, the pen, writing stories, because that story did give rise to a different sense of accountability. All of the people that have taken and written stories about greed, about avarice, hate, those stories have in some ways encouraged other people to take a stand. So we have writers within this group. So within our writing and our stories, we might be that voice that probes, that makes people think about what they do, or if nothing else, to get organized, so that when they hear that there's going to be a meeting around a person getting a license, or a meeting around a program, that rather than just sitting back, they will, maybe from the character in the story, or if it's an essay, that might give them the motivation to go forward and support something that makes a change. And that's kind of what they have identified. Those are things that we could do, that there's a pattern that applies to us as people who are journalists, writers, speakers, actors. Elizabeth might write a play. I say, you guys, in seeing Elizabeth and talking, she might write you into a story. Not in a malicious way. She's just very creative and has written a fashion show. She wrote a play that was carried out through a fashion show. So we have the power. The pen is more powerful than the sword. So in these times, we can write some things that inform people, other things that motivate people, other things that really call and condemn and pressure the people that have offices, holding them accountable to, what are you doing about this? This is in your lap. We've asked that at different times during the podcast. We ask people that were responsible for seniors' rights, older people who've gone back to the workplace, what can they do? We've asked people about Vancouver has got in its intention of making the city walkable. We pursued and we're looking for whose lap is that sitting in? Who do we need to write to, or what do we need to do? So I think that, each of you have examples, and there are things that we can carry forth to help other people understand that human rights is more than just a day or a proclamation. It happens in these things that we do, like speaking truth to power, or speaking truth to crooks. Speechless. Next week, we're going to be talking about wishes. And so there's a connection to this, because sometimes, we're not having the traditional type of holidays where, we make a wish. We're not having cake where you blow out your candles and make a wish. But there are things, rather than saying, I wish we didn't have to stay locked in during Christmas. What is another wish that you can bring? We're thinking of, for next week, when we have an activity around wishes, if you bring one wish, that's a wish for yourself. What do you wish for yourself in this new year? And then a wish that you're giving, like if you were giving someone, it's like, oh, I wish for Don a whole new set of books, or but something that is just going to be fun and serious, to bring a wish for yourself and bring a wish. And it can be a wish to confer on the wall, to confer on the world, confer for a person. But we're going to be next week playing with that theme of wishes. And then on the 24th, both Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve fall on Thursdays. So on the 24th, we'll have a sing-along. We might have a band along, and we will be talking about some of the things that looking for the positive differences, because it's a lot where people are very angry and saying, we can't do this, we can't do that. But what can we do? Because I think we've learned other ways to touch each other. So we will be talking about those things as we party and celebrate on the 24th. And then on the 31st, we're going to move it. So if you have a move or you have a song, we're going to move it to music. And we're going to do some other fun things to celebrate New Year's Eve and just the gratitude of being alive, because we could complain, but we are grateful. So we will express those things. And I'm going to do a small activity called a tribute poem. As you know, a lot of people died without being able to speak to their relatives or loved ones. And one of the things that's very healing is doing a tribute poem. So I'm going to share 3 tribute poems and invite you. We'll have a period of time where you can write a tribute poem when we get together on the 31st. So lots of exciting things coming up. Does anyone else have any parting comments as we close out?
Sorry I was late. I want to keep coming to this, and I'm trying to rearrange my schedule so I can. I really enjoy these conversations and learning from all of you. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dad.
Yeah.
And Judith gave us the queenly hand wave.
It's just easier to see a wave when you see the whole hat.
Yes.
I'm not wearing my crown.
Well, and you can wear a sweater. When we have our thing on the 24th, you can wear a hat or a sweater. It can be a pretty sweater, ugly sweater, mockery sweater, or a king or queen's crown, whatever. So until we meet again.
I thought the Queen's wave was this.
Just a little twist at the wrist.